Hi, I'm Jonathan Weinberg, and this is Drawing with Fountain Pens. I've decided to start a new series of tips and where I would just talk about things that I've learned along the way, mistakes I've made, suggestions. I, for a long time, have had these Pilot mixable colors in my drawer. Those of you who follow the channel know that I am someone who keeps a journal every day, and I've talked about sometimes the problems of using a fountain pen in a journal and how the ink can see through. And I did a review in which I kind of talked about a favorite journal of mine, the ones that I use, which is the Look Term journals. For a while, I was using their 120 version, which is a thicker paper, which definitely any pen and ink that you can throw at it works with it fine. But I find that it's a bit too thick, and actually in some ways the paper, because it's coated, doesn't hold the ink quite as well as I like. So I've come back to using the Look Term 1917, which for most ink that you can throw at it seems to work fine. I go through this process where every day I switch pens. Maybe I have 5, 6, 7 pens in my arsenal, and then I switch colors, and just for variety's sake. And the other day I was going to use a Pilot pen. Well, I did use a Pilot pen, this custom 7.4, and I put in some Pilot ink, and I was looking around for some cool colors, and I had bought this in an art supply store. It's meant to be used specifically, and it says so on the box, with parallel pens, with Pilot parallel pens. And these are really cool pens for calligraphy. Wait, this one's not opening. In drawing, it has these really unusual points, which are really like two little pieces of steel that are pressed together. I've reviewed the parallel pens, and they're really great for drawing, I think, and using in different ways, almost like brushes, and certainly for doing certain kinds of calligraphy. Their nibs, actually, you can screw them off and put them in Opus 88 pens, certain Opus 88 pen models, which is cool too. Anyway, this ink is advertised as being specifically made for these pens, and you see it comes in this variety of colors, and the cartridges that it has are just like look like standard Pilot cartridges. So I thought, well, why not put that in a regular pen, even though it says on the back that it is only meant for parallel pens, but how can it hurt? And indeed, when I put it into the pen, it certainly seems to write perfectly fine, and it is a nice color. But then I discovered, to my horror, when I was keeping my journal, that unfortunately the ink goes right through it. Let me show you what that looks like. That's what it looks like when you write with it through the paper on the regular Look Term 1917. So this is the violet in that Pilot group of inks. I go. This is what happens. Oh my goodness. Right? Comes right through. And that is really bad if you're keeping a journal. And in general, that doesn't happen with a lot of other inks. Now, if I do use it in their 120 version, it's a good test, you'll see that it doesn't really come through. So if you really want to use those things for whatever reason, you need this very thick paper. And also, if you have, a whole variety of inks and there's a problem, I really do recommend the loop term 120. But this is a thicker, it is a thicker paper, and you get less paper, less sheets in a journal. It's heavier, thicker, and I've also found that the paper kind of is more resistant, and it feels a little different when you're writing on it. So I prefer the 1917. So the lesson in all this is that if you're going to use inks that bleed, like these Pilot color inks, then you really have to use the 120 gram. I'm going to stick to the look term 1917 80 gram, but I'm not going to use the Pilot colors. Also, I suppose the lesson is to follow the directions, because they tell you not to use this in any other pen but the Pilot parallel pen. And that's very wise in this particular case.